Hello, listeners. Are you familiar with coffee? I'm sure you're familiar with coffee. Coffee is supposed to come from places like Brazil, Colombia, or Ethiopia, and China rarely makes that list. But hidden in the mountains of Yunnan, a coffee industry has been quietly growing for decades. The story begins with missionaries who first brought coffee to China more than a century ago. But the modern industry didn't really take shape until the late 20th century when Nestle arrived in Yunnan in the 1980s, introducing commercial coffee farming, training local farmers, and building the early supply chain. Then, another global giant changed the demand side. When Starbucks entered China in 1999, it didn't just sell coffee, it helped build an entire coffee culture in a country historically defined by tea. And today, more than 98% of China's coffee comes from Yunnan, supplying domestic coffee chains and increasingly entering global supply chains. So, how did a tea-drinking civilization end up producing coffee? And how did companies like Nestle and Starbucks shape both the farms and the cafes that power China's coffee boom? I'm your host, Pan.
And I'm Linda.
Welcome to this episode of Ascent. I've never been more caffeinated than the past few weeks doing research for this episode.
Yesterday, especially. So here it is, the history of Chinese, particularly Yunnan grown coffee. So when did the whole coffee plantation start?
I'll take you back all the way to 1880.
Part?
Okay. But we will fast forward very quickly. Mm-hmm. The Qing dynasty had officially wrapped up the war with many other nations. One city around the border area of southwestern part of China has opened up, and that city is called Mengzi. Once that city opens up, it borders Vietnam and Laos. Many traders and a lot of missionaries from the UK and from France ended up in China.
This is because it's that area of China is bordering Myanmar, which is British occupied, and
Correct.
Vietnam, which is French occupied, right?
That's
right. So
right.
they kind of, the concept of border was less strict those days.
That's right.
Okay.
The first coffee plant in China, which literally, I think, that whole era is coffee as a house plant area.
Yeah, of course.
It's not even a coffee as a plantation area.
Yeah. It's your backyard.
There was a French missionary. His name is Alfred Lietard, L-A-E.
I'm sorry, I can't
with
help you.
Apostrophe T-R-D. How's your French?
Not good enough to try this word.
And he was a French Catholic missionary. I found the journal that he wrote.
Oh, wow.
And that's what it looks like. So apparently he was in the village with the Lolo people, which I think later, according to historical journals, it was the E-ethnics group, Yizu,
It's one of the ethnic minorities
in the southern part of Yunnan. That's correct. So he brought the original Arabica coffee seed to this village, later called Zhukula Village. It was in Binchuan. It was close to Dali in 1892 to 1904 period.
Right. And this is mostly for his own consumption or his friends and families.
Coffee as a houseplant area.
Right.
Yeah. So,
okay.
So plant a few trees there and just...
Like while I'm being a missionary, I would like to enjoy my coffee.
That's correct. But I do have to say, I think a lot of the missionaries' lifestyle, or at least the way that they're living their lives in that area, has been passed down in the areas with the ethnic minorities. So a lot of those people in that area, even today, still have afternoon teas or coffees.
So they're the first coffee drinkers of China,
Correct.
the ethnic minority that live with the missionaries.
So historical records suggest that missionary Lietard brought coffee primarily for his personal use. And this officially marks the beginning of coffee cultivation in China in very small batch.
Okay. And that obviously stopped with World War I, World War II, and resumed.
So then period 2 comes coffee as a small crop and almost discontinued 1920s era. And this era was when China was before China was officially founded, which was in 1949. And as we all know, Yunnan, before coffee landed, is known for a lot of tea. And before coffee was a proper commodity and cash crop, Yunnan traded tea for decades. And Yunnan has always had a very vigorous business revolving around tea.
Yes. China in general is just a tea country.
That's right. Yeah. And quite famously in Yunnan, there is this particular kind of tea that is a major export to Laos and Vietnam, to the Southeast Asia. Fast forward to 1950s. So this is right after when China was founded, People's Republic of China was founded. And then something happened to coffee. Coffee was picked up again. In the 1950s, there is no domestic consumption of coffee.
No.
It is pure export. And who were those people who were drinking, and who were Chinese coffee plantations supplying to?
I think
Soviet Union and other Eastern European countries.
which makes sense because back then it was the communist bloc, right?
Right.
And obviously you can't plant coffee in northern areas of the world.
Right.
So,
We'll get to the bean belt in just a bit.
okay.
So in this whole universe, in this whole world, on Earth, there are only a limited amount of spaces that has the right climate that allows, also the right soil, the environment, that allows coffee to flourish.
Yeah, coffee trees are like delicate babies.
Right.
They can only be planted in very specific areas.
Very specific areas, like slightly higher altitude, slightly acidic or volcanic soil. You also have to be very bug repellent to be able to sustain in those places.
And most importantly, near the equator.
Right.
Yeah.
In 1950s, China started planting coffees, and according to historical account, there was a Science Academy of Agriculture. One of the professors who was working there, Dr. Ma Xijin, Dr. Ma, we'll just call him, and he had discovered that there are some coffee trees, notes of coffee trees, that he wasn't sure whether these are coffee trees or not, but he noticed that these could be coffee trees in some of the neighborhoods that's close to the Dai ethnic minority groups. They looked like they had white flowers and had red fruits, but there is not a lot of coffee consumption back then. So it was treated very much as a niche plant that on small scale was growing up in that area. But then you may have a question. So coffee was originally planted in that area close to the southern border of Yunnan. How did it end up in a different city in Yunnan? Because there are two different cities, two different regions that has coffee production.
Right, because Yunnan is actually pretty big in land mass.
Yeah. Right after the establishment of People's Republic of China, there was this worker who used to work on a silver mine in Burma, Myanmar, but Burma back in the days. And he was a great technician. And he got entrusted both by the British and the Chinese. And his name is Liang Jinshan. And so he was the person who was intrigued by the coffee business. And after China was founded in 1949, he learned that, the local government of Yunnan wants to plant coffee beans in Yunnan. So he took on a mission and drafted up a proposal to the state council representative at the time. And that proposal letter, you can still find it in Baoshan, one of the coffee museums.
Got it.
And in 1952, he proposed that, why don't I collect some beans from the Dai ethnic minority groups from the south and start working and plant some coffee trees in Baoshan area. at the time, it was a top-down decision-making to plant the coffee trees. And those who joined him in planting and making the coffee farms happening was the local army who got drafted to Yunnan. So this group of people became the first batch of planters of the commercial beans in China.
Got it. So I think I read a similar story where the Chinese government the Soviet government went to the Chinese government saying, we want coffee. The Chinese government had no agriculture background.
Nope.
And so
That's why the army came in, I guess.
Exactly. And back then, I guess everything is state-owned and controlled, right? So
Surely,
then you can actually move around your army and workforce. So the army came in, but the workforce as an army came in, but then they didn't have the technology. So this guy actually volunteered because he was with the British in Myanmar and he had some know-how.
Yeah.
And as an ethnic Chinese, he's like, I will do this for the country.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of this coffee farm. However, very shortly afterwards, what happened was the relationship between China and Soviet Union deteriorated very quickly, right?
In the 80s, 70s,
in
80s?
the 50s.
In the 50s?
Towards the end of the 50s and the beginning of the 60s.
Okay.
That's when.
Sorry,
so it's not really like a very long time. And no one was buying the coffee beans anymore.
Oh no, that's such a waste.
I know. And then there was no domestic consumption. So the farm was left as is.
Okay.
And everyone just continued on with their lives, planting other things.
Poor guy.
So in the 60s and 70s, the demand disappeared. However, the farm was still there. But then the farm got repurposed. And
For what?
oh, interesting. So, and even today, if you go on the map, and so first of all, that farm still exists. But that farm existed in a different format. And it's currently called the Institute of Tropical and Subtropical Cash Crop, Yunnan Academy of Agricultural Science.
Oh.
So it's a physical location. That's where the first coffee farm can be found. And it's in a town called Menghe, which
Sounds familiar.
I guess
Yeah.
in the Yunnan Dai language can roughly be translated into a sun-kissed land.
Okay.
And what good commercial agriculture products needs a lot of sun? Well, I guess technically everything.
But maybe coffee.
There was a particular cash crop. It's cotton.
Which makes sense because in the 50s and 60s and 70s, China's economy and main production it's more like
Basic textile industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need people to actually have clothes
Yeah, like
rather than coffee, right? Coffee
Right.
is kind of a luxury good.
Oh,
at
well,
that point.
also the funny thing is clothes, textile, that's the sort of the foundational layer of the light industry, right? For coffee, they call it bourgeoisie consumption, right? Like
which is
not supported by a socialist country. It's like you're
especially in the 60s and 70s.
yeah. How could you be living a petty bourgeoisie life? Like
No, you cannot have any time to yourself.
So in that area, there are a couple different types of coffee beans that's being documented. Let's just try to get on some names or types of coffee beans that we have in the 50s and 60s so that we get to...
If you're a coffee lover, you would know, but if not,
Right.
it's just
And
words.
And I ended up... this is the first time for me to very systematically learn about all different types of the coffee beans within Yunnan. It's pretty
actually
fascinating.
a pretty complex ecosystem and
Right.
agriculture product.
So very, very generally, there are 2 different kinds of coffee beans. Well, I guess if you want to go into the details, there are 4, but just for easiness of explanation later, there are 2,
Yes.
which is Arabica and Robusta, right?
Yeah. Or Robusta. I don't know
Robusta.
how. I don't know
Yeah.
how people pronounce it.
Right. And Arabica beans counts towards 60 to 70% of the world production. It's known for a very smooth, complex, and less bitter flavor. And typically, you can find Arabica in Ethiopia, Colombia, and Brazil. And Robusta, whatever you call it, makes up about mostly the rest of the world's production, 30 to 40%. It is much stronger, more bitter, and higher in caffeine.
Yes.
And later did I realize that the amount of caffeine that is in the beans is directly positively correlated to how bug repellent it is. The more caffeine it is in the coffee, the more bug repellent it is.
Because they're plants, right? So they need survival, modes of survival. And so the more bug repellent it is, it develops caffeine to repel bugs.
Right.
Basically. Or
Like as a natural way of surviving the environment.
Exactly.
And for Robusta beans, Vietnam is a sort of a concentrated location for this kind of beans. You must have had.
I had Vietnamese coffee. Yeah.
It is so strong.
Yeah.
I was so naive before I took home my first coffee of Vietnamese coffee when I was in, I forgot which city, but I was about to board a plane and I had a iced Americano with, well, it's kind of a Vietnamese blend. It's Robusta coffee with condensed milk. So
that's how usually Vietnamese coffee
right.
is.
And it's the condensed milk has sugar, and I don't typically drink a lot of sugar. So it's strong coffee with strong sugar in one cup. And in that plane, I felt like my whole body was going to explode. My heart was racing so much.
Yeah, so that's a typical Southeast Asia coffee and Southeast Asia coffee. Robusta beans are mainly Vietnam, Indonesia, and India, right? And all three countries drinks very strong coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now that I have had that experience, I'll be very mindful what kind of beans that I'll be drinking in the future.
But for the most part, like you said, 60 to 70% are Arabica, and those are
milder.
Exactly. Yeah. And those are generally viewed as superior in terms among coffee lovers.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to Yunnan, the first batch of beans in the 50s and 60s that were introduced to that local area, one is called Typica, right? And then the other one is called Bourbon. And both of these are subcategories of Arabica. And those beans are passed down to Yunnan from either India or Burma.
Oh, okay.
Right. But you may have learned a different kind of beans that got popular and which you can still find today, which is very popular in Yunnan these days. And that bean is called Catamar.
Catamar, yeah.
Right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Catamar was originally planted in Vietnam, and it is a crossbreed between Catora and
Timor.
And Timor, right?
Yeah.
It's a hybrid.
Yes.
And it has about...
It's a lab hybrid too. It's a lab baby.
Oh, right.
Yes. But its parents are both natural born.
Right.
Anyways, please go on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this bean has about 25% of, all the genetic makeup of Robusta, and then the rest are Arabica. So it has some traits of both beans. Yeah.
So the Catora is a 100% Arabica bean. Timor, its other parent, is a half and half.
Right.
Which is why it's 75% Arabica heritage and 25% Robusta, which is, as Catamar is classified as Arabica.
Right.
When you sell it in the market because of its 75% heritage, but it's an inferior Arabica because of its 25% inferior Robusta heritage.
Why do we have to label everything like dogs and cats?
I know. But the good thing is, because of its Robusta heritage, it is less prone to leaf rust and fungal infections, which makes the production more stable.
Right.
Which is actually one of the factors that will come into play later in China.
Yeah. Before we move on to the first companies that is about to enter China, let's just also quickly touch about the bean belt. Is Yunnan actually a good place for coffee to grow? Was that kind of just a pure accident that a houseplant took off, or was it actually a good place for coffee to grow?
Are you questioning Nestle's decisioning?
How could one? How could one? But it turns out Yunnan is at a perfect location for coffee production. It's about in between 1,000 to 2,000 meters in altitude, slightly acidic soil, a lot of sunshine, pretty warm, valleys in highland, right? Like all of these are accurate depictions of Yunnan. 98% of China's coffee is produced in Yunnan itself. And you may be wondering, What about the remaining 2%? Where are those produced in? Hainan and Fujian both have a very small portion, of coffee production.
Do you know why they're not in mass production?
Because
they don't have the altitude.
I was going to say because they have like more profitable cash crop, but yeah, altitude is too. Yeah.
Well, Hainan is not exactly. Yeah, so altitude is the main criteria because Hainan is that little island, right? So there's no mountains above 1,000.
Yeah.
They could have done robusta beans. So robusta beans have less altitude requirement.
Right.
But because I think China ended up going with Arabica, higher value, etc., it just never kicked off in those two places.
But if you go to Hainan, they will serve you like very similar to Vietnamese coffee, like drinks.
Yeah. So that's their provincial local coffee.
Yeah,
but it's very different from Yunnan coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in terms of Fujian, I've never had any coffee in Fujian.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
It's a province that's mostly dominated by tea and has really good tea.
Yes.
So I haven't gotten the chance. Our first commercial giant came into the picture. The year 1988.
Mm-hmm.
That is when Nestle came to China. Fun fact, did you know? Do you know what Nestle was producing in the first place? Like, how did this company came about? Just very quickly.
Not coffee?
No, not coffee.
Oh.
So
then I don't.
So the modern Nestle group was formed by two different parts, and one is the Anglo-Swiss Condensed Milk Company, and that is founded by an American brothers, Charles and George Page. The other half is founded by a German pharmacist, Henry Nestle, and sorry for slaughtering that name, who developed a milk flour infant cereal. And then the reason that he had developed that solution is to combat the high infant mortality rate. So the two companies joined force and quickly diversified the company from only milk products, dairy products, into chocolate and instant coffee. Instant coffee existed in Nestle starting from 1938. And that's also when the new brand, Nescafe, was created. Nestle was introduced to China quite early on, way before 1988.
Yes. Before we're born because we're really young.
Oh, way before we're born. The sweetened condensed milk was sold in China/Hong Kong in 1874. And Nestle's sales office was later opened in Shanghai at the beginning of the 20th century, 1908. And Nestle started to build its first factory in Shuangcheng, and that's northeastern part of China, in 1987. And then came the coffee establishment.
And I heard that they wanted to grow coffee in China because they know that they will have a market in China. They kind of had an eye on Chinese commercial market, and they just kind of did this project on the side to make the government happy.
Which was a very bold idea to have
in 1988.
Exactly, in 1988.
But I guess it's a more than, at that time it's more than 100 years old. The company has seen countries kind of go up and down, right? So it sees something in China, whether it's population size or the fact that other countries nearby has grown in the past 20 years after the war.
Yeah. The CEO of Nestle during that time, his name is called, and I once again apologize for slaughtering that.
It's okay. We've done this way too many times.
His name is Helmut Maucher, Maucher.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, he's very well known by Chinese at around that time, and he has a very bold and audacious philosophy in entering new markets. Mm-hmm. So I think you've touched upon a right point for entering a market. Like, it is a land that is very mysterious, but we want to go in.
It's a commercial play in the end because there are for-profit company.
Sure.
And at the same time, this project is actually a UNDP supported project. So at that time, Chinese government actually needed some support from international organizations to grow the economy.
And
this is one
some
of
foreign
its-
companies to come and stir things up and see what happens.
So everyone, it was kind of a win-win situation, right?
Yeah.
UNDP is helping out China. The Chinese government gets another economically viable product. Nestle gets a potential future in a country that have a high development potential.
Right. Nestle finally entered China in 1987, and that's after 13 years of negotiation. So which means that they have been thinking about this idea for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of why they want China market so badly. If you remember another instant coffee brand in China, have you ever had instant coffee as a kid?
Yes.
You have had.
But
right?
probably Nestle.
But did you remember there was another brand called Maxwell?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So Maxwell and Nestle, they were, eyeing China market at about the same time. But the two companies use very different strategies. Maxwell is like, you know what? I'm just going to sell my instant coffee there and see what happens. Not very confident.
Of course.
But Nestle is like, oh no, we're building factories.
Yeah.
Like we're
growing with you.
Yeah, we're growing with you. And we're not just going to bring out products, but we'll do something there. We'll maybe even build a supply chain there.
It's such a good foresight for businesses.
Right. Yeah. So the goal for Nestle at the time was very clear. For the existing products that they already have, everything that they have in FMCG, whether it's a milk or coffee or like a chocolate or anything, they want to import. And they also want to secure a supply chain to ensure a stable, high quality source that is present in China. And you know that
one I'm questioning about, stable and high quality.
Milk is perishable goods. You can't be transferring a different country's milk to, so that way it won't be cost efficient. So the best way of producing is to find a local milk factory. So that's why they open up the Shuangcheng Milk Factory. In the first place.
Alongside the coffee.
In 87 and in 88, they started the coffee business.
I see.
Right.
When did they do the milk? Sorry.
1987.
1987.
1 year before.
Okay.
Yeah, the coffee.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And the second observation that they've had before, I guess, I'm not sure whether they have used a consulting service back then, but they're very much into the new consumer habits. They've noticed that the Chinese consumers did not have a habit of drinking coffee. So I guess people who are glass half empty would say, oh, there's no way for a tea drinking nation to drink coffee.
Yes.
But for someone who is glass half full, they would say, oh, its market is wide open for coffee. And we should definitely expand this market and cultivate the young opinion leaders to drink Nescafe, instant coffee.
Maybe, in hindsight, that was way too early.
Right. It was very early. And the localization strategy, and that they have practiced in different locations too, which is to create a shared value model, which means that I'm not just going to strip every single penny out of the land. They know that this is agriculture-related business. So if we're going to benefit 1 penny from the market, then we should probably collaborate with the local farmers or the local producers. So they had that in mind when they started building the business. One more thing is, in 1988, when they had started the coffee business in China, Nestle already has a lot of coffee connections with Brazil and Vietnam.
Yes.
However, the coffee price fluctuates a lot, right?
Yes. Highly volatile commodity.
Right. And so the part of the reason why they wanted to find more locations for coffee planting is a strategic diversification on hedging risk, right? And what they want is large, scalable production and alternatives that allows them to grow coffee and harvest coffee in big batches so they can have stable supply, stable production of the instant coffee.
This somehow didn't work out in Yunnan because Nestle's main Arabica production farming facilities are in Brazil, right? And what's special about Brazil compared to Ethiopia and Colombia and other Arabica producing nations is that Brazil's high altitude land is flat. When it's flat, you can go in with machinery to do everything. Yunnan, on the other hand, I don't know if during their research, maybe you can answer the question. I feel like you can. But the question is, during their research, did they see flat land in Yunnan, or were they thinking it was just cheap labor in China that's going to offset the picking process, which is the most expensive, that cannot, if it's in a hilly area, then you can't replace it with machines. You have to use human. That's expensive.
What a lovely question.
That you will answer.
Lovely question.
Okay.
Of course, like if you're a company that is as large as Nestle, scalability and business viability comes number one. It's not just, sustainable farming, like great. But that comes as a second step.
Right.
It's a good to have, but not a must have if you want to enter a commercial market. So they had scouted a few different places within Yunnan. They've been to Dehong, right, which is the southern part. They've also been to Baoshan, which is very hilly, right? It's the valley next to the mountains.
Yeah, Baoshan, and Shan means mountain. So
Yes. And they've also been to Binchuan, Dali, which is also kind of a hilly part of Yunnan, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they ended up picking none of it and decided that, you know what? I'm going to be building a new coffee farm in Pu'er.
But Pu'er is flat.
Less hilly than the other ones because the other ones are like steep mountains.
I see.
But Pu'er is like small foothills.
Okay.
So, and you've seen the Pu'er tea mountains.
Right.
They're like hilly-ish, but still operable by machines.
They're picking, you can't do by machines nowadays. So I don't know if back in the days they found a flatland and ultimately that's replaced by fruits and other cash crops. But right now, if you go to Pu'er, which is the biggest production area in Yunnan, it's all in areas where there's at least hills. And when there's hills, then you can't use that flat machinery to pick all of your fruits.
And you must have seen the video or like the machine in
The
life,
Brazil,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. That machine
It's gigantic.
Oh, it's like a door,
Yes.
right? It's a huge machine door that goes through a series of small bushes, and it just like beats the tree.
It's like how do I so the closest thing I can think of is if you're a guy and you go to the washroom, you stand in between like a bush. So the machine is like your feet.
Right.
And then there's
right.
like small hands on the side to like
It tickles you.
exactly. So basically,
it's a tree tickler.
I didn't even think of that. So the machine has to be taller than the tree
Right.
to like kind of bypass, the door bypasses it. And so there's nowhere in Yunnan that I visited that has that kind of landscape.
Right. So the very good question. You know what? I think the only way to find out would be next time that we go to this actual physical location. According to all the materials that I could find, it is a relatively flatter-ish place that allows that machine to operate, which is the tree tickler. And that allows them to harvest in commercial batches.
I think the other potential reason is that this is 1988 China, right? The labor cost
So low.
is I'm making this up, but it's less than 1/100th of today.
Probably.
So maybe they calculated the labor cost and somehow that offsets planting in the mountainous areas.
That's possible.
Because when they first arrived and the coffee planters or the tea planters that they were trying to convince to switch to coffee, they were convinced because coffee at that time, they can actually sell it at a premium compared to teas. Because Pu'er tea only blew up in the 2000s.
Right.
And Pu'er tea back then was government-controlled pricing as well. And so when a foreign company comes in and say, we're willing to pay a higher price, the laborers would switch over.
Right.
And they're happy with 300 kwai a year.
Wow.
Which is, I mean, it's probably not in modern terms, but $40 a year.
Right. But for farmers in that area,
At that time,
it's a reasonable amount of pay.
Yeah. Which quickly changed.
Right. So Nestle came wanting to make China kind of a Yunnan, a buffer coffee zone to hedge some risk as a short-term strategy. And long-term wise, they want to build a supply chain there and tap into a huge domestic market, which later they did do that, right? And by having Yunnan as a production site, Nestle reduced the logistics cost. They do have a coffee processing facility in Guangdong, in Dongguan.
Oh.
So all the coffee that's been dry freezed or spray freezed are processed in Dongguan. That's where the brown bottle is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you buy today, like on the bottle, the label will say, "Oh, it's produced in Dongguan Nestle factory."
Yeah.
And direct sourcing. Nestle has always been a huge fan, or like the initiator in that particular industry, on a champion in direct sourcing. So anything that they can source directly, they will just manage the vendor directly. Very much like Apple, So the analogy I can find here is, I am a huge seller, but I'm going to source and manage all of my suppliers directly. And preferably the bigger, the better.
Yeah. But actually, so funny enough, in China, there's actually, in the 60s and 70s, there's a concept called farming communes, which is an organization of neighboring farmers, right? This is a government setup. In the 90s, most of these have deteriorated, so there's independent farmers.
Right.
But the concept still exists in that if we're in the same village, one of us who is probably, I guess, the lead farmer can still form a commune, and this person will still acquire all the coffee beans and then send it to Nestle. So there's that, I guess, concept of a channel partner.
The OG channel sales.
Yes, a kind of, but it's not a concept that Nestle was meant to have. It's just something that came up naturally in the history of kind of how China developed.
Right. Yeah. Since 1988, Nestle is hoping, and in its vision wants to see, a scalable, stable, and affordable coffee bean farms inside of China.
Yeah. Just one quick note, because we talked about Catamore before. So Nestle...
Oh, right.
Yes.
Very important. Yes,
exactly. Go. So the reason why Catamore was planted in Yunnan, a vast majority of Yunnan crops are Catamore variety, it's not by chance. It's actually a purposeful strategy by Nestle. Because at that time, Nestle needed a relative cheap to produce coffee that is not prone to coffee leaf rust or bugs or infection. And so it picked that variety on purpose to make it easy. And to the bane of current coffee farmers, that variety, as we mentioned, is inferior. And so when the industry later wants to upgrade itself, it's faced with a dilemma of, should I cut down my old Catamore trees or plant new ones, which typically need to wait for 4 years to get decent kind of fruits to be produced, decent amount of fruits to be produced. So thanks to Nestle, Yunnan coffee has historically been known as slightly inferior. But at that time, it's actually very helpful because the necessary knowledge that requires to produce coffee actually gets passed down to generations.
Exactly.
But because those farmers actually never planted coffee before, they needed kind of an easy variety.
Yes.
To get started with.
They need an MVP.
Exactly.
Like a quick win.
And that's actually Catamore, right? So you just plant it, easy, no leaf rust. You might not even need a lot of fertilizer and it'll grow by itself. 4 years later, you pick them up, ship it to Nestle. Nestle actually did something really helpful to convert the tea planters to coffee, or to convert the general farmer to coffee, is that they set up a buying agreement as part of the UNDP and Chinese government initiative, which is I have a minimum pricing guarantee.
It's like an insurance.
It is an insurance because it's a UNDP development program, right? They not only provided Catamore coffee seeds for free to China, they've guaranteed that we will buy we'll buy your coffee if the international price is above a certain threshold. We'll pay you the international price minus a few tens of cents because of the quality is lower than general. But then if the price goes down in the international market, we at least guarantee this much.
The average price that you'll break even.
There will be there was a minimum price that they promised to purchase.
Right.
So it was easy to convince the Chinese government. And back then, the Chinese government had a lot more say in what the farmers produce, which converted a lot. Because imagine if you're just a commercial giant, right? You go to a foreign country and be like, plant coffee, guys. Who's going to listen to you?
I literally put down that question. I'm like, in the year 1990s, if I'm a farmer and some other foreign brands came to me and said, go plant coffee trees right now, what would I say?
Like, I don't even drink coffee. Like, I don't, why
no
am
thanks.
I planting this like bitter fruit? Or it's not even fruit. It's like a seed.
It's a fruit that you can't enjoy.
Yeah.
It's like, and hello, this is Yunnan, where we eat everything we grow, like almost instantly.
Yeah.
Not 3 years afterwards.
Yeah. Like there's so many produce that they could plant. So because the coffee beans worth more than tea at the time is worth more than corn, a lot more than corn and rice, it was a relatively easy conversion. The Chinese government backed it, so then they pushed for the effort as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So Nestle will teach the farmers, will provide the beans, the seed, and teaches the farmers how to, grow these trees. And then the farmers will then grow the beans and then supply Nestle with the green beans, right, that they have. Easier said than done. In that process, the farmers still encountered with a number of problems. But this is all sort of predicted by Nestle. So that's why, to make sure every single question is met, starting from year 1992, Nestle had put down a very cute little office in Pu'er. It looks like this.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like this. And it's called a Nestle Coffee Agriculture Service and a Buying Station, with just like a plastic band on top and Nescafe on the side. In 1992, there was another plan who was launched. Maybe you have came across the same name. It's called the Nescafe plan. The goal is to onboard as many coffee farmers as possible. And then we all raise the beans. We all teach you how. And in just a matter of 3 years, more than 36,000 farmers registered with Nestle. And we're actively learning from them.
Look at that.
Yeah.
When you give them free beans, free agronomists, and minimum buying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most important of all, there was this Belgian guy who was teaching the Yunnan farmers how to grow better beans and how you can trade your beans at a better price. His name is called Walter De Smet, Belgian guy. There are all in all 6 generations of the coffee specialist, or as we call it, the Yunnan coffee godfathers in Yunnan. And Walter was one of them. And he served in between the year 2005 and 2015. And his job is to make sure that every farmer is growing better coffee every single year.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks, Walter. This is interesting because even nowadays, if you look at the Yunnan, I guess the leaders of the Yunnan coffee industry, Europeans, Americans names keep on popping up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest in from those areas, and they would just move to Yunnan permanently to work in the coffee industry.
The attachment.
And they play a very big role in actually developing the coffee industry over time.
Right. So now, supposedly, a couple years afterwards, you have your first few batches of coffee beans, right, ready to be traded. And for the first time, farmers are meeting not a plant economy, but a market economy. How they meet the market economy is through Nestle's New York Coffee Exchange.
It's not Nestle's. It's just the New York Coffee Exchange. Yeah,
but introduced through Nestle. Nestle will put up a board or put up like a monitor
in China.
In China,
Nestle is your only way to the New York IC Exchange.
Exactly. Like
Nice.
where that hole in the wall office will be open.
It's your only portal too.
That's right.
Okay.
So some of the farmers got smarter. They will hoard the coffee until the price goes up.
Yeah.
And they will just like sit there and wait. I was like, oh, like,
Of course, buy low, sell high.
so some of the farmers really get to know how to do business with the New York Coffee Exchange and knowing that Nestle will take their coffees. Starting from 1997, and all the productions are becoming more stable. And model farms, experiment farms are being established in the broader Pu'er/Xizhuangbanna area. So now Yunnan officially has coffee as a commodity crop.
Right. And that went on, I guess, in pretty stable manners all the way to 2000s. Right? So there is more farmers adopting, but there's never been like a surge of adoption. And so you'll see, if you look at the chart of Yunnan production, it's trending up, but it's kind of very gradually trending up. And Nestle, as the only player, have full say. Well, not full say, but they are literally the only one and only buyers in the market. So the farmers are like, I guess their livelihood
Depends on this
Nestle's daily published price.
Yeah. So in between 1992 and I guess the early 2000s, Nestle created a market and it was the sole buyer for that market within China.
Yeah.
One more thing that Nestle did right, or that they've continued to be a very big player in the market, and this is very quick before we introduce the next big player, which is the 4C labeling. It's called the Common Code for Coffee Communities. It is kind of a license for coffee suppliers. You can't just be anyone. You have to be under this general direction or general guidelines to be recognized as a official Nescafe supplier.
Okay. It's a certification of quality or some type of standards. Okay.
It's a partnership list. So once you have that, it means that you're raising coffee through, natural pesticides or like sustainable agriculture, blah, 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 all of that. And once that we know that you have done it, we will certify you as a 4C coffee supplier. So, I guess once again, for setting up that standard in the local area, that really helped, I guess, growing a healthier coffee growing community instead of just going for who has the lowest price and who has like more coffee. But I think they're actively trying to build an ecosystem in Yunnan like they've done in other places. In the 12 years of existence of the whole coffee plan under Nestle, they've spent about $6 million. And then the ROI for that $6 million is in the early 2000s, they had in Yunnan, there were the production was 3,000 to 5,000 tons. And in mid 2010, that number grew to 10 to 13K tons. So it at least doubled. And that number is still growing. And the money that is made out of all the coffee in the farms, remember the 6 million. And now if the per kilogram coffee is about 25 to 40 yuan, then roughly that whole area is producing about $60 million of coffee in a matter of 10, 12 years. So that's 10x.
Just the green beans?
Just the green beans.
Wow,
just the green beans.
But Nestle, and we're going to cover this later in value chains, but Nestle's main revenue generator is not from the green beans. The green bean is 3 to 4% of the entire value chain, right?
Right.
So they must have made a couple billions more probably.
Yeah. And the last bit is the land used in coffee planting in the 1950s. It was about 4,000 hectares of coffee planting. And in the year 2023, that area 20x'd. So it is about 80,000 hectares of coffee cultivation around that. On a personal note, I had my very fair share of instant coffee. And this is the instant coffee that I grew up with.
Yes.
Okay. The brown bottles.
Same. It's around the world, yeah.
And that was considered a luxury item, like during Chinese New Year.
Because that would have been how much back then, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's
It would
a
have been, like,
sizable.
luxury, yeah.
Yeah. It's
McDonald was luxury back in the 90s.
right. If you had similar memories, these are very big brown bottles with dried instant coffee in it. And you typically receive those as a gift during Chinese New Year time. And alongside with Ferrero chocolate, that was pretty standard items.
Yeah.
And then I went to the college in the US. So before the age of 18, I had instant coffee mostly in China. And after, when I went to the college in the US, I was introduced to drip coffee. And now I'm a coffee snob.
When's the last time you had a Nestle?
I have a very expensive taste in coffee, but I'm not willing to pay $6.50 just for a black coffee. And why is that? The last time I was in SF, I realized how absurdly expensive coffee is.
Only in the indie coffee shops, right?
Only
Not in Nestle is still selling their
in SF. There's only indie coffee shops, honey. Right? So coming back to China and having manners and Luckin, that puts you on a very big stretch, right? Like you have almost less than $1 coffee, which is okay, right? It's drinkable, to $6.50 just a black coffee, and extra cost for someone handing that coffee to you.
right.
So, but we'll get to that later. We're moving on to
Starbucks. Yeah, the second coffee giant that entered the country
Right.
in 20. Well, they entered the country in 19. Their first shop was set up in 1999, actually, but they didn't for 10 or so years. They didn't purchase any coffee from Yunnan until 2012
Right.
is the timeline I'm getting.
Why do you think Starbucks came to China in the first place?
Same reason as Nestle. They want the market.
Right. Could
Yeah.
be interesting. Because Starbucks, when I look at their expansion strategy, what got me most interested was, why did you put these different locations in that order, right? So Starbucks went to Canada first.
For obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons, right?
Seattle, Canada, next doors.
Yeah. So wave number one, which is in the 80s and 90s, that was the culturally adjacent locations, which is Canada, UK, and even Japan. Oh, Japan had a coffee drinking history ever since the end of the World War. And they have histories of receiving care packages with instant coffee in it, therefore drinking coffee.
It's one of the largest coffee drinking
I know.
countries in the world.
An Asian place that drinks a lot of coffee. And that doesn't even produce coffee.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first group of international market. Very high income consumers, has coffee drinking culture, and also very wealthy. Right. China made it to the second wave. So I'm guessing maybe they picked some of the global metropolis and then just ended up that, oh, I'm going to South Korea, I'm going to China, I'm going to Singapore.
I think they did something similar to Nestle, and they probably had someone, a data analyst, mapping out the future potential. Because if you look at Starbucks today,
Right.
China is the second largest country
Yeah.
after the US.
I was surprised to
Yes.
learn that. Like China became the second largest market for Starbucks.
And by far,
Yeah.
right? So it must have saw this happening because it saw what happened to Japan. It saw what happened to Korea in terms of coffee consumption. It looked at the population size of China. At 1999, it's 10 years or more. It's more than a decade after China decided to open up its economy.
Yeah.
So the trajectory has been up and up and up.
Right.
So for Starbucks, it's a much safer bet than Nestle, but it's still pretty early stages. But they're planting the seed 10 years before it really blew up. So because it was so early, Starbucks really benefited.
Yeah. Just going back to the first store that was ever open in mainland China, the China World Trade Building coffee shop was the first store that was open in Beijing. And in year 1999, one cup of coffee, and I'm not kidding, is sold at 25 RMB.
It's still 25 RMB today.
I know, but in 1999, if you sell anything over 20 kwai, that's $4. Like, you have to be like rich to consume one of those.
I guess for our listeners who are not familiar with China in the 90s, anything Western brand, right, is
Like
luxury.
a McDonald or like a KFC.
So KFC did really well domestically. And I don't know about you, but back in the days, going to KFC for a birthday party
a treat.
was like you're the shit in your school.
Yeah.
And later on Pizza Hut came in. Having Pizza Hut is more than luxury. This is like you gotta dress up, and it was a planned dinner to go to a Pizza Hut in the 90s. So this is a different era where Starbucks is luxury.
Is luxury. And in the year 2000, the GDP per capita in China is less than $1,000 a year, and one cup of coffee costs you $4. That is outrageous.
Yeah.
To be exact, it's $959 per capita GDP in 2000. And if you average it out by 365 days, it's $2.6 a day, and your coffee is $4. And you wonder, why does it have to be that expensive? Like, why would anyone ever want to consume that?
Because it works. Because I think they saw McDonald's and KFC, and they're like, I think there are, because of the population size,
right,
and the potential, right?
Right. So also, I think Starbucks, when it first came to China, it was aiming for, I guess, a cool place to hang out. It's a space, like it's a coffee house kind of a concept. It's not like today you're just having that coffee. There is no habit of drinking coffee yet.
So let's turn it back to the production side. Let's go back to Yunnan. So Starbucks started, similar to Nestle, Starbucks also started its own facilities to its own little house to acquire, right? But the slight difference from Nestle is that Nestle actually produces instant coffee, whereas Starbucks produces you make the coffee in the coffee shop.
The fresh coffee.
Right. Even though the quality is not the best, you still have better standards or higher standards than a typical Nestle. So when Starbucks first entered the market back then, the Yunnan production, the farmers, were not, despite the 4 Cs that you mentioned, they were not particularly good with producing quality coffees. They didn't know that, you have to pick the ripe beans, ripe cherries. They didn't know a lot about different kinds of fermentation methodologies and treatment methodologies. So Nestle was okay with it because there's one price for coffee. We're just going to buy at that one price. Now, 80% of what you give us is above the quality that we need. So you don't need to worry about getting a higher quality because you're not getting a higher price out of it. So for 10 years, the farmers didn't care about quality. Starbucks comes in, and all of a sudden they care because they need to make sure that the consistency of the coffee beans is there. They need to make sure that you pick your coffee at the right time instead of just grabbing it by the bush and pulling it down.
It is literally grabbing the bush and pulling it down.
It was because Nestle doesn't care if you have like some green beans among the red beans.
We just want kilos of coffee.
We just want kilos, right? Yeah. So when Starbucks came in, they actually had agronomists who then upgraded that training from fertilization to how do you pick coffees and how do you pre-process them. Because in the early days when Nestle acquired, they only acquired the cherry, so the fruit itself.
Not even the processed
not
beans.
Even, yes.
The decoded beans.
Yeah, so you only want the cherries, and like 5 kilos of cherry only produce 1 kilo of bean. So they were buying the cherries and doing all the processing. So they did provide some hand-cranked, how do you get, you can use a hand crank to get the bean out. And then they do provide some kind of pre-processing lessons, but they also offer you to just give them the beans and they'll do all the processing. So the farmer was like, okay, well, similar price.
That's convenient.
Whatever, right? So they never really upgraded their own skills. Starbucks came in and they were offering prices that are significantly above, by significantly, I mean like maybe 30 cents USD, which for the farmers is a lot because this is for a kilo, right? So the farmers would produce like maybe 10,000 kilos. And so each cent for them matters a lot. So what I'm reading is for the first year almost, but especially in the first few months that startups set up collection shops, the queue was in the number of days.
Yeah. That's what I saw as well.
Yeah. So you queue
Line
up.
up.
You queue up
With
in
your
your truck for days to meet the Starbucks guy and be like,
Just for
"Sir,
that
here's
30
my
cent."
coffee." But it was worth it. It was worth it for 5 days.
Yeah.
You can get. So say if you have a big truck, right? You can get like, let's say $3,000 USD more. Yes.
Quick plug here. The Starbucks had a period of frustration before they reached that point. And then the period of frustration is, yes, there are a lot of people lining up for that. But at the beginning, there was a passing rate for coffee beans. That passing rate was so low.
Yes.
Like
it was 20%.
Right.
Yeah.
People were just lining up and Starbucks would be like, oh, well, sorry.
Not
but
the one we want.
it's not that the quality is bad. It's not consistent. We want consistent level of good grade beans, but it is very clear that you didn't separate out what are the better ones and what are the average ones.
Yeah.
But if you were to be resorting those beans, maybe we'll give you a better price. And that's when the farmers started to think that, oh, like, will they really give me some more money and more incentives? I will do exactly that. And then the beans got sorted. And then the passing rate got much higher. Right?
Exactly. So Starbucks actually played a pivotal role in upgrading the entire ecosystem, right? The other thing that Starbucks actually got pretty lucky is right before it entered China, 2007, 2008, there was a huge pu'er tea crash. So the price of pu'er, I don't know if you remember, around that time, everyone was like, pu'er has health benefits. You can lose weight. I don't know. There was a lot of marketing.
Smarter.
There's a lot of marketing around pu'er tea around that area. It wasn't like, pu'er wasn't really even the tea to go for in China because you have so many tea plantations around the eastern border, the eastern coast of China that's way superior than pu'er back in the days. But somehow it blew up. There was speculative trading and whatnot, and everyone switched to tea. People even cut down like the Nestle plants, the coffee plants, to switch to tea, but then it crashed. And so that left some of the tea farmers wanting to switch to coffee. And 2010, 2011 are years where coffee prices are rising in the international market, thanks to a drought in Brazil. And just a plug here, Yunnan does not determine coffee prices at all.
Nope.
Coffee prices in the world are determined by two countries, Brazil and Vietnam.
Mostly.
So whenever there's any weather events happening, either of these two countries, the coffee prices. So Brazil for Arabica and Vietnam for Robusta. And so they control coffee prices. Yunnan is the price taker, which actually plays in their favor. Because Yunnan, because of its 25% Robusta genes, it has relative stable production volumes. So when Brazil has a drought, Yunnan benefits. When Brazil has a good years, prices go down, but they're okay, right? So two things happened, right? So Brazil drought plus the local tea crash, a lot of farmers switched to coffee. And so in 2021, it was booming again. Right, prices were all-time high, and a lot of people decided not to plant pu'er. But just as it goes up, it will go down. So if you ever look at the coffee commodity prices, it comes in 8 to 9 year cycles where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And we know that the trees takes 4 years to plant. So when the farmers were like, okay, prices are going up, let's plant some trees. 4 years later, price go down. Okay, let's switch to pu'er. And then plant some trees. 4 years later, price go down, right? Yeah. So it's kind of a really bad cycle that they went through. And they went through this a couple of times. There was another round of cutting down coffee trees in 2018 and 19.
Oh, no.
Because of the labor by then already went up, right? The labor price. So it was no longer economically feasible. Coffee trees were left there with the fruits and not picked.
Oh, unattended completely.
Because picking would be costing
extra
way too
cost,
much.
Right.
and it wouldn't be worth it. And so the farmer actually, if they had, again, going back to their knowledge of the commodity market is very important.
Right.
Because if they had looked at the commodity market of coffee, they would realize that I need to make decisions at least 4 years in advance. And just giving you an example, the coffee price in 2025 went up to all-time high in the history.
Because of the shortage.
Because of several shortages, thanks to global warming. And Yunnan, again, benefited. But we know from history that it's going down and it's going to go down. But a lot of people came into the coffee industry in 2014 and 15, planting trees. When are those trees going to mature?
19, 20.
Exactly. And by then, we don't know what you're getting, right? So, okay, so back to Starbucks. So Starbucks was lucky in that entered the market during a time that people are willing to plant coffee. And at the same time, it did the same methodology. It copied the Nestle methodologies, which is we will grow
Farmer
with you.
support.
Yeah, we will grow with you. We will be your friend. And then you will sell us better beans. So eventually, Starbucks actually led the wave of increasing the bean quality. But not that much. It's still very much commercial grade. It's not what we call premium coffee. It's still commercial grade coffee, but better than instant Nestle.
Right. And up until 2017, Starbucks released a single origin beans from Yunnan, which I think marked maybe the beginning of some specialty or more premium beans in Yunnan, but that's comes in very small batches. I think it's also a gesture to show that we have been growing coffee with you for a while now, that we're finally confident enough to say that, oh, here is a very small batch of beans that can meet the international grade of specialty beans. And later on, I think the farmers all learned that, oh, like we can really grow the premium beans here. And that's when I think more people started to jump into the fields of specialty beans. And how much of a price difference do you have on the specialty beans versus the typical everyday commodity level beans?
What you call premium beans is a big variety as well. It's a big range, right? So anywhere stemming from 1.5 times, even sometimes 1.2 times. So they're not like that specialty when it's like 1.5 time above the ICE is the Intercontinental Exchange, which is the commodity market for Arabica coffee.
Right.
So if it's 1.5 times, it's still considered premium, but not that premium. But if you, let's say, win something called the Cup of Excellence, it can shoot up to like 1,000 times.
The COE.
Easily. Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to talk about this later on, but then I will. There is some gambling going on right now in the industry.
Interesting.
Because of how much the price variation is. It's like, if you know wine, right? Your house wine is in this range, and then you have your very expensive
Premium
wine all the way outside of the range. So coffee is going in the similar price pattern. And so after Starbucks came in, so going back to the timeline, after Starbucks came in, I think economically, I think there's kind of three phases. So from Starbucks coming in all the way to 2014-15 era, there's a big ramp up in plantations. The acreage like doubled.
Production goes up.
Yeah, because everyone wants in on selling to Starbucks and selling to Nestle. And it was, despite the price not going up that much, it's still much higher than other alternatives. Right. So the production went up, but production actually tipped.
Ooh.
So the number of hectares that are used for coffee plant actually tipped in 2014.
Ooh.
And it's not because Chinese people are negative on coffee at that time. It's actually, if you were to guess.
I'm trying to think of a reasonable thing.
So now they have tons of agronomists with them, right? Then the agronomists look at the coffee plants and how they're planted. And they're like, well, with a little bit of trimming here and there, you can up the grade of your coffee, right? With a bit
So
of
it's not a
fertilizer.
scale business.
Exactly.
It becomes a quality ARPA business.
Yes, exactly. So by 2014, the scale has ended. There are restrictions also put on the land. There's only a limited number of land in the hilly regions as well, and you're competing against other cash crops. The government also started to have ideas of conservation. Right. So there are places where and Yunnan is rich with other like forests. So there are places that they don't want you to plant cash crops to protect nature. And so as a result, after 2014, there's a period of reducing the hectareage, the acreage that is used to plant coffee, but maintaining the same level of bean in terms of tonnage production. Productivity. But the quality doesn't increase. It's just increasing yield, right? And then we go into 2016 to 2019, which is the coffee price slump. And tea, again, starts to go up. And so some farmers who, in hindsight, doesn't have any foresight.
Like decided, a lot of them?
Yeah, so there was a huge pruning
cut down the trees
of coffee trees at that point, and it's just 4 years of wasted fertilizers and everything and labor. And so they switched to, so by then we have other fruits as well other than tea. So you have dragon fruit, you have avocado, you have other stuff that they can plant. So they switched. These people are probably regretting their decisions right now because if the coffee price basically skyrocketed from 2020 onwards until last year.
Missed out.
Exactly. So this 2016 is when then I think we maxed out the acreage. Then people started to think, oh, okay, then how do we maximize our value? And there's a few ways to increase your value.
Better beans.
So this is 2016, I would say, is kind of the year when premium beans the concept is introduced to farmers. I'm sure they are aware of this, but the first coffee shops that are really kind of coming to Yunnan to educate them and to teach them that here are a few ways that you can improve the average price for your beans is really started in 2016. And so by then, Chinese labor also went up. Right. So the reason why people cut down the trees in 2018 and 19 is because the price at 2018 and 19 was the same as the price around 2012 or 20, like before. Like it never fell below the prices that they were selling at during the Nestle years. But labor went up significantly to make it not worthwhile. And that's the reason for cutting down the trees.
And why does labor mean so much in this? Because if not the Nestle door-like harvesting machine, all the coffee cherries has to be picked by hand. And and you also have to eye check because not all the coffee beans are, even if it's on the same branch, they may not ripe at the same level. So you really have to use your human eye knowledge / hands to pick everything up, right, to manage that process.
Exactly. So when people got back to coffee planting around 2019, 2020, the main goal is to save the Chinese coffee industry. Because if the price actually slumped and never came back, there will be more people cutting trees, right? So unless you can go premium, there's no economic viability for you to continue planting coffee in Yunnan.
Right.
And so this whole industry could have
failed
just
non-existent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then the next phase come in, which is the pandemic phase. And that created significant opportunity. So during the pandemic, we know that import-export are basically at a lower volume because of restrictions in shipping. And so even though at that time, the Chinese planters, the farmers are not ready for premium, the Chinese consumers, the
Shanghai people.
Yes, the Shanghai bourgeois consumers who are so used to their high quality Ethiopian and Colombian beans cannot get them
anymore. Need the dose.
Exactly. So a group of people started looking into Yunnan. right? And that's where it's kind of, they're almost forced to increase their quality.
It might be worth mentioning that why does Shanghai matter so much in this process? Shanghai, I think, is de facto the coffee capital, at least
Of the world.
Asia, well, of the world. It has thousands of coffee shops.
So I read that it's the city with the most number of coffee shops in the world, surpassing New York and London.
Which is crazy. I also read up a number about the total number of coffee drinkers inside of China. In a country with 1 billion people, the active coffee drinkers totals about 3 million.
Only?
Yeah, well, yeah, like the regulars, right?
Okay.
Like the ones that would consume
Us.
every day. It's definitely in the millions
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
And I think Shanghai would probably take up most of it, like Beijing and Shanghai. But obviously, I think Shanghai would have a lot more like daily coffee drinkers. The average coffee consumption per person in China is really shockingly low. Like on average, I guess it's because we have such a huge population. Out of the 1.45 billion people, the average per person annual coffee consumption is about 22 cups. And
This is already 2023, 24 numbers, right? Which went up from, which doubled since the pandemic started.
Yeah, which is crazy. And Shanghai probably took up a much heavier part of
Yes.
that coffee consumption.
And I think I had the number for if somewhere in the range of 400 to 500 is Japan and Korea
Yeah.
per cup versus 22 in China. So imagine the future possibilities.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah. And so then again, going back to Yunnan, right? They've maxed out, well, they kind of maxed out their acreage. They are now working on increasing their quality. But domestic consumption just won't cut it. So which is why as soon as the pandemic ended, all of the new consumption, coffee consumption in China is actually supplemented by exporters or importers, sorry. So while we think that coffee in China is on the rise, it's actually the consumer end, right? So I think Yunnan actually faces a pretty large difficulty in this pivoting point where it needs to really force itself to go all the way to premium,
Right.
which it has. So it went from 8% premium in 2021. This is just second year of pandemic, all the way to around 40%
Wow.
today. So it's a big rush to go premium because they really can't afford to not, right? And so even then, I think official numbers is about 50% locally produced beans supplied Chinese consumers and 50% imports. The unofficial number is about 70% imports. So China in the future, all the growing consumptions might need to come from imports. So coffee producers around the world, if you're thinking about another market, I think China will be an easy win for you. Yeah.
Well, there will be at least a lot of new coffee drinkers that will be craving for your caffeine.
Yes. Yes.
Good or bad.
Mostly good, actually.
Yeah.
People are very...
Well, actually, yeah, typically. Because people wanted Ethiopian beans or Colombian or Brazilian beans mostly because of the stability, right? It's a quality consistency versus the Yunnan beans. Doesn't produce a whole lot, but the consistency has always been a problem, the quality issue.
Exactly. But now, so there's, going back to quality and going back to Catamore again. So the baby has defects, right? We know, and we can't just get rid of Catamore because it takes 4 years to plant a tree. And so there has been, so there's two ways of improving quality. There's one that improves the whole fermentation process, the picking process. You can improve your quality. And so that's why there's a lot of testing with the Catamore beans. So one of the coffee we sampled has a wine taste. So the wine taste
It's a beautiful taste.
It's awesome.
It's great.
And it's actually very, not specific to Yunnan, but it's picked up by, it became very popular in Yunnan in the first phase of going premium. So 2016, 17, this process called anaerobic fermentation was really popular. And anaerobic means no air. So what they do is they pick the fruits, put it in a sealed container, much like how you would do with wine, grapes, and then you would let it sit for a while and let it ferment, and that's where the wine tastes come from, which deviates a little bit from the very traditional kind of wash and dry process. And so that's why in Yunnan, in the early days of growing premium, you'll have a lot of kind of alcohol-y taste coffee beans. Yeah.
Interesting. Because in Kenya or in Ethiopia, if you want to be making coffee beans, you basically, it's a very water-intensive process. You just wash through all of the beans and you break the coat of the bean completely, and you just wash it over and over and over again till it's completely clean, and then you sun dry it. And then you pack the beans, and that's the green beans before it get roasted.
Yeah. So why Ethiopian beans are better with the wash methodology, where you just break everything, you get the bean out first, and then you ferment and dry, is because if you have better quality beans, you want the natural flavor of the beans to stay in as much as possible. Right. But when you have lesser inferior quality beans, you want to play around with it and have different flavors going in. So sometimes you would like keep the fruit part, keep the mucilage around for a longer period of time. Right. That's why you see so much experimentation in Yunnan. And less so in the traditional areas where you know you have good beans.
It's like the sauce.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You keep the sauce on.
Exactly. So it's like, I hate to use this, but like if your baby's born ugly, you can still do things with it.
Oh my God.
To make it pretty.
It's all nature's creation.
Yes. Exactly. And so
it's gifted differently.
And yes, and I like to prove the fact that, you know, Yunnan bean has actually won a lot of awards recently.
Yeah.
So they managed to turn things around, but this is the first way of doing different kinds of experimental fermentation. The second one is they also started parts of the farmers' land. They'll use it to plant other beans like Typica, Bourbon, or whatever other varieties, so that they could, you know, start with a better baby. Yeah. So there are ways of them trying to make the quality of the beans or the price of the ultimate beans better. And it is a highly experimental process. So you can do 10 tests.
And fail all of them.
Exactly. And so this is where I go back to the idea of gambling. So this is according to my friend who'd actually done intensive research. Who
has a PhD
yes.
in what is it called? Coffee?
In coffee. Her thesis
School
is
of
in
Agriculture.
Coffee.
Kind of.
It's actually anthropology.
Anthropology.
It's a very interesting topic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. She's not published yet, so I can't talk too much about it, I imagine. But it will be a very interesting paper that I'm looking forward to reading.
We will make sure to link one of her paper links in the maybe the
when it's published
episode. Yes.
Yes.
When it comes out.
Yeah, and she's been
Thank you for supporting this episode.
super helpful. And one of the very interesting things she mentioned was that because it resembles gambling, there are players that are outside of the coffee industry that are getting into coffee industry. So real estate obviously has been in slump in China, but the old real estate developers would have money to fund it. And because coffee, despite government support, is not really doesn't receive huge government funding. It's actually, if you look at the coffee industry, it's very scattered with low concentration, smaller.
Yeah, mom and pop shop, SMB kind of scenario.
Exactly. And so it's actually prone to a lot of disturbance. And there is a lot of disturbance happening with people with capital, but not so much coffee history. So that's what's happening in the market.
So not a lot of ecosystem builders, but a lot of disruptors who want to grab a piece of pie.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to how this pans out. Obviously, there are a lot of very qualified coffee producers in Yunnan that came up through the generations. There's like it's already third generation farmer producers, and they're well tuned in like how coffee is processed and whatnot. And so there's definitely really good players. I'm just saying that because of the pricing surge and a lot of marketing, And obviously, it's a little bit premium price because China coffee is still new. So a lot of the coffee shops are willing to buy at a premium for, I guess, surprise factors. And so as a result, yeah, there are a lot of players and we'll see how it pans out. And one other thing, right? And I mentioned this earlier, which is the green beans that they're selling, pre-roasted beans, despite Nestle making a lot of money out of them, they're actually the tail end of the value chain.
Right.
Yeah. So if you buy a coffee at a retail shop, right, it's for $5 for a cup, which is 10 to 20 grams.
Right.
All right. So typically for a kilo, that would be maybe 1,500 yuan. Right? For the same...
Absurd.
Yeah. Which is absurd, but it's, roasted, marketed, packaged nicely.
Specialty
so
coffee.
you add the marketing cost and you add the roasting cost. So 1,500. This is, I'm talking about 2017 prices. Right now in China, they're much less expensive because of the price war that's been going on, the $1 coffee that you mentioned. But let's just say, globally, 1,500 RMB for a retail kilo of coffee, right? Before the retail is the roasting process. A bag of roasted coffee, not in retail store, but in wholesale, it's about 80 RMB. 80, 1,500. Wow. 80, 1,500. Marketing, right? Marketing, storefront, etc., which makes sense. But even then, roasting is, so it used to be 80 RMB. Now it's about 130-ish because it's been 7-8 years. So 2025 prices, 130 RMB. So $20, right? The bean itself, not even the cherry, the bean with processing, so the fermentation, everything, the green bean, one bag, at its highest, which is last year, 50 RMB, right? 2017 at lower points, 17 RMB. So if you're a producer in 2017, let me just go through the prices again. 1 kilo of green bean, unroasted, 17 RMB. It becomes 80 when it's roasted. It becomes 1,500 when it's in a shop. Today, 50 green bean, it becomes 130 when it's roasted, and it becomes about 900 at a shop. So two takeaways. One is the farmers in Yunnan, which only have been in the very beginning of the value chain, is getting cents on the dollar, right? Nestle is getting the dollar on the dollar. And so naturally, later on, when they realize this, they're like, hey, I want in on everything else, right? So China actually went all in on roasting. So China now is 80% of the Yunnan roasting is done in China compared to 0.
Couple years ago.
When around Starbucks days.
Yeah.
On retail, and you might touch this later on retail, Starbucks used to be 40% market share.
That has long gone.
Yeah. But, the retail where majority of the value is created, Starbucks and Nestle owns, right, in China for a long period of time.
Right.
And then domestic brand comes in, kind of really shoot up during the pandemic era. And then now they own more than 40%, right? So China, both on the roasting end and on the retail end, has started growing a lot. And that's where a lot of the value comes from. On the picking and green bean production end, the quality is increasing, which is why overall, if you look at the coffee supply chain, Yunnan has really ascended over the past 5 years.
So about the retail coffee competition, I guess without going into the rabbit hole, as I almost went into the rabbit hole because I was searching extensively on Luckin Coffee, and then I realized this brand itself is worth at least one other episode. It is very complicated. So in China, it is no longer dominated by Starbucks or Nestle. There is a variety of players who are currently in the market. And obviously number one being Luckin Coffee, newly founded coffee in 2017.
I know, it's only...
It just grew
8 years
really
old?
fast, right?
Yeah.
It felt like a long time. Just in a few years, it surpassed Starbucks' number of stores within China. Starbucks has about more than 6,000 stores within China. Luckin, as of today, has more than 13,000 stores, the largest coffee chain in China. But it doesn't have the same strategy as Starbucks as a third place or a real estate first coffee shop. It is very much of a digital native. It champions app first. You always order a coffee. And in fact, at the beginning of their marketing, they started a campaign with buy one coffee, I'll give you one for free kind of campaign to drive up the market. Very heavy use of discounts. And its positioning is coffee as a daily habit. So basically, Starbucks educated the market what coffee is and why should you drink coffee. And so most of the white-collar workers within the large cities in China started drinking coffee. And then Luckin
came in and destroyed them.
Hey, we don't want you to drink premium or at least overpriced coffee every single day. How about just 1/4 of that price?
Yes.
And I'll offer you daily. So now with 2 coffees price, you can drink for like the whole week. That's kind of their strategy. 98% of Luckin's revenue, even though it has gone global, but 98% is still coming from China. It has went to Singapore. It went to other parts of Southeast Asia. And even today, it has some stores in the US. But, it's still growing. And it promotes Yunnan coffee. It has a few Yunnan origin coffees, but its primary beans is still a mixture of the locations that we've discussed before.
Right, because Yunnan can't supply all the coffees in China.
Right. And the demand simply is too large.
Too large.
Yeah, it's too large. And number 2 ranks Starbucks, and number 3 comes Cotti Coffee, Cotti. And it's established by a former Luckin executive starting in 2022. And that coffee also has more than 6,000 stores within China. And similar to Luckin, the strategy also comes with ultra low pricing position.
Yeah.
Very franchise heavy. And number 4, and this is some of the coffee stores that some of my friends that loved mostly, and Manor Coffee. It's a 2015 Shanghai brand. And it's
more premium.
It's more premium. At least it looks more premium.
It's priced at Starbucks minus 20%-ish.
And if you were to bring your own cup or own mug, it will give you extra deduction.
Oh.
Right. So most of the people will just basically use Manor Coffee as a part of their everyday cafeteria and bring their own mug and get a small discount and drink 5 kuai or like 10 kuai coffee every single day.
I should do that.
Yeah. So up until today, I am, at least in China, unwilling to pay for any coffee that is more than 10 kuai. If I see an Americano that is more than 10, I will maybe go to a different store.
But this is done really through squeezing out the middle layer. So if you remember the 2017 and 25 comparison, coffee bean went up 3 times.
Jeez.
Right? Roasting went up 2 times. But then retail market went down by half.
Yeah. And these competitors, even as their own brand, have taken up a very large share of that pie, but they're not the only competitive players. Remember, there are 2 other Western franchises have a lot of stores, and they've turned a part of their existing stores into coffee shops and joined the coffee competition, the coffee retail competition inside of China.
Really?
And it is McDonald and KFC.
Oh.
Every single KFC now has a coffee branch that's called 肯悦咖啡, right? And if you see, because they already have the store and the sales per square unit is basically maxed out within the current store. So if any of the stores that wants to drive up more people, want to drive up more sales, coffee becomes that SKU that is easily repeatable, can be sold at a much faster rate. And so that way, with the scalability, they already have thousands of stores within China.
Right.
So all they have to do is open up a window and sell more coffee and sell more pickups, right? So that's why if you were to, the absolute cheapest coffee that you can get with the high quality ones, with Ethiopian beans, are the 6 kwai coffee, which is kind of less than $1 right now from KFC and McDonald's. They can actually drive up the price. And the CEO of KFC, inside of China, says even with the price as low as 6 yuan a cup, we can still make a profit thanks to scalability.
Yes.
Right. And okay, so back to Luckin a little bit. So Luckin really nailed down the scale economy and localization. So these two things are the winning recipes for them to win a larger share of that pie and to compete with Starbucks. Number one, the scalability one. They compared every single one of their stores with the Starbucks stores, and what they were hoping to do is to drive down the cost of rent. There is no reason for Luckin to pay that much rent. The sales per square meter for every single Luckin store, and if you have ever been to any Luckin store, they do not like people inside of the store. They want people to take orders on their app and just pick it up and go.
Yeah.
Like they don't have like the seats or the internet or like the
it's not
display.
a sit-down cafe.
No, it's not a sit-down cafe. So the sales per square meter is about 50K RMB per year per square meter. And that is 3 times what Starbucks can do in China. So Starbucks sales per square meter is about 20K RMB per year. That's already a huge difference. And for every single cup, for every cup you are selling to the
average
customers,
cup price.
the average cup price, there is a portion that goes to the rent, like that comes into the cost. And for Luckin, it's a quarter of Starbucks.
Oh.
Yeah. So they've really managed to cut down the rent cost. So if you take that out, well, we can make your coffee even lower priced.
Because Starbucks is still located at fairly premium locations where Luckin has entered third, 4th tier cities.
You see, so that's why I guess Starbucks has to sell more things like cake, yogurt,
yes,
lunch.
Mooncake.
Yeah. The overpriced mooncake that you don't know what it is made of, but it's just fairly overpriced. How do you drive up higher efficiency with the scalable stores that you have inside of China? And then 2 is localization, or to really understand what Chinese people like to drink. So it turns out, according to data, Chinese people are not really big fans of bitter coffee. What Chinese people like are coffee-flavored drinks. That's not necessarily coffee.
I know.
The best sellers in Luckin are coconut latte, condensed milk latte, and cheese top latte, whatever that is. And so, which I think is probably similar to the taste of Frappuccino. It's just very sugary and condensed milk.
It's a mix. So if you ever had bubble tea before, I feel like Luckin and cold tea is less just a traditional coffee shop, but kind of moving toward that bubble tea feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's probably, did a thorough understanding of the taste before they did the development. And they have a scrum process for drink development. So they roll out so many new drinks on a weekly basis. And for whatever that had better number, will keep the SKUs. And for whatever that doesn't,
it's like the fast fashion for coffee.
Remember there was a few months where they were selling the Maotai latte.
Yes,
that was a part of the scrum process, is to roll out new things continuously and see which one people liked. We'll roll on more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the better ones will stay or make a comeback. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's basically how they compete, despite the fact that Luckin did face a complication just a few years ago.
The IPO?
The accounting scandal that happened in 2020. However, management has changed. We'll do it in a separate episode. Let's not dwell too much on that. It was listed on NASDAQ and now it's delisted from NASDAQ, but it's still tradable through OTC.
Right.
Right.
You can probably read about on it on the internet.
But the management changed completely. And they're still very much in the coffee retail game.
Yeah.
And they're doing such a good job in conquering the Chinese market with the most number of coffee stores, with a lot of new SKUs being rolled out. They have 4 different types of stores. And as you can see right here, which is, well, like I cut out from their playbook. So they have stores that solely serve the purpose for takeouts. Like there's no storefront. It's kind of a kitchen, right? You just pick up. And they have stores with mostly pickups and maybe 2 or 3 tables, where it's kind of at the border of a community where, you know, people can still come and wait for their drinks. And the third type of store would be more spacious with proper seats. And the last bit would be pure branding purpose, which it will be a 200 square meter and above with luxurious seating and a lot of branding showcases with new experiential coffee demos.
So is that like a Starbucks Reserve competitor?
Kind of. So the extremely small stores will drive up the traffic, and for the middle bit will drive up the profit, and for the extremely high-end ones, you will drive up the experience and have people take photos. So like the Starbucks Reserve store kind of thing. So yeah.
Yikes.
Does everything.
For Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, I think it's incredibly difficult to compete as a retail product within China. It's because your competitions are all like that.
your competition have the best way of minimizing cost and maximizing SKUs.
Well, thanks to that, we get to drink KFC's 6 kwai or $1 coffee.
Yeah, and I would actually say at times I would believe that the McCafe bean quality is quite high.
Oh, it's absolutely, because they have the best sources, right, of the beans. So I would assume that this is where you can really get the better beans, but with a very low price. However, I do not support the malicious competition.
Yes.
I don't think driving the price down will benefit everyone. I think at the end of the day, to make an ecosystem much healthier, you will have to have like maybe the right amount of incentive to get enough people to buy you. But to keep your customers on the platform or still buying you, you got to give it a good enough product.
In fact, actually, because the middleman's getting squeezed from higher coffee prices and lower market prices, the indie shops, the smaller retail and roasters
are finding it very hard to sustain.
Are the ones that are getting squeezed.
Suffering.
And I saw this article of, well, whenever a retail coffee shop goes bankrupt, they need to sell the espresso machine and roasters, right? And so there's a huge backlog of secondhand roasters and espresso machines.
Jeez.
Because a lot of these coffee shops just
going out
couldn't
of
compete.
business.
Yeah, so Starbucks revenue is actually flat despite opening more shops. It's been hurt by Luckin, obviously, but I think the small mom and pop shops are the ones that are hurt the most. So I would, and they're the ones that are moving the entire Yunnan coffee industry into higher quality. So at some point there needs to be a balance. And so far there's no one player that could stand out and be that person or be that company or government who can maintain the balance yet. So that's going to be a challenge in the foreseeable future.
Yeah. How do you have both the scalable parties and the SMBs coexist piece? Which is why I think the different waves of coffee like had initiated in the US. I think the parallel that I could find is the first wave of coffee was Maxwell, like Nestle, Nescafe. And then the second wave was Starbucks, coffee as a commodity. And then the third wave was the blue bottle, the intelligentsia, the craftsmanship coffee.
Whereas in China, the third wave completely went the opposite end into Luckin and Culti.
Yeah.
So when is China going back? Or will China go to?
Will we have that wave of
Exactly.
the craftsmanship coffee?
Yes.
Yeah. I guess in Shanghai you could.
You still could,
Yeah.
and I think in Shanghai, but even in Shanghai, it's competition,
squeezed,
right? For every 9 kwai, 6 kwai coffee that's sold, there's one
Yeah.
less cup of 40 kwai premium coffee.
Yeah. This is also my dilemma. Like, while being a coffee snob, unwilling to pay extra price.
You can switch.
Because I make my own coffee too. Yeah, I can switch it
But
up.
they do
yeah, I guess.
they do taste. I would have to say I had the best coffee in Shanghai. They are quite snobby about it, which means good quality.
Yeah. We recently tasted a sampler of Yunnan
Which
coffee.
the 10 samples.
Yeah. And I have to say they do have some very interesting flavored. Like, as someone who makes coffee by myself every day at home, I do appreciate the flavors that they were able to like infuse or roast into the beans. Willing to pay the price for the coffee that I can make at home by myself. Last bit.
Okay.
Another quiz-like fun fact.
Yeah.
But I
like
think
quizzes.
you know the answer already.
If I don't, it'd be very shameful, but let me ask.
So the country, or I guess the area of the world that drinks the most coffee in the world.
If we're talking about area? Because I think
country can be country.
Oh, okay. So Scandinavian country.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know which one, but it's one
I mean, I was so shocked to find out. Like, they just basically chug coffee like water. I don't think they drink that much water. It's just
there's
1,600 cups of coffee. But I think it's very diluted, like in Finland. That's what I discovered.
I think in Europe there's more tendency to drink instant coffees than in the US, where there's more kind of grind and brew
Fresh coffee, yeah. And in South Korea, we go to South Korea pretty regularly, and let's just say that they do drink black coffee like
8 cups a day. Like the coffee shops are filled at 9 p.m.
and they
for some reason
drink ice Americano in winter.
Yeah. So
The national drink is ice Americano.
yeah, so every country has this particular ways of drinking, and maybe in China right now it's just
Coconut latte.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So if you were to kind of hypothesize the next 5 years of the coffee industry.
Prediction time. From my personal experience, I think both the scalable everyday coffee will grow, and the regional, I guess the provincial level indie coffees or the craftsman coffee will also grow. Right now, the on average per capita coffee consumption is still quite low. And given the younger population's taste, I'm assuming, and
It will grow.
it will definitely
Yes.
grow. But it's just a matter of I cannot possibly predict what taste. Like what kind of...
Is it coconut latte or is it blue bottle?
I have no idea.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but I do have a lot of hope for Yunnan. I think there will be tastemakers of Yunnan coffee who will come out and present Yunnan coffee both as a commodity coffee and as specialty coffee.
Yeah.
Both have the quality and quantity. But it's just agriculture product wise, I don't know how the farmers will be benefiting from this. I wish that they could be benefiting a lot more from the supply chain.
I think they definitely benefited from the last 2 years of coffee price hikes, but it's now kind of in the beginning of what I believe to be a down cycle. So I'm just worried about, every down cycle
they will cut out a lot of
right,
tree
because there's not
restart.
a lot of they don't save up for a few years time, right? It's kind of some of them even borrow money to plant trees.
Yeah.
So I think it's always the farmers that's at the tail end of this whole supply chain. And so if you look across the world, like Brazil and Vietnam is the farmers are the ones that's getting kind of the short end of the stick. But with Yunnan, I have a feeling that the quantity play might be at risk because production costs will not get any lower. The land will not get any flatter. The amount of land will not be available for them to increase. And right next door in Myanmar, right,
flatlands.
you have it's still mountainous, but the labor cost is 1/5 or lower. So similar terrain. Why not? If I'm a Nestle, do I want to plant elsewhere? Right. And so the only way out of it is to go premium. But how much premium demand will China have? That's the question you have as well, right? And so a lot of larger farm owners are now getting into other areas like roasting, which is lower along the supply chain,
Right.
and or with e-commerce booming in China, direct to consumer. And yeah, Douyin sells coffee. Like our Chinese TikTok sells coffee.
The amount of innovation that went into retail coffee within China is
Stunning.
yes. Like the all you can find all formats of coffee here.
Yes.
Or you can find coffee in all formats, whatever you want to call it. It's like in a powder, in
Powder,
liquid,
freeze-dried,
like
drip
condensed,
coffee, like coffee, drip coffee bags.
like
that were-
capsules and yeah. If you want
Capsules
like
infused with.
caffeine injected with your GLP-1.
I'm not sure. We're not there yet.
They probably don't do that, but it's
Someone's developing this.
like, but what if like
Yeah. So, and there's coffee tourism,
yeah,
which is super super to the end of the 2C retail consumer chain. So I luckily stayed at two of the plantations.
Oh.
One is actually created in conjunction with Starbucks Foundation. And then the other one is a private, and both are amazing.
Yeah, I take it as you like it a lot.
I
Otherwise
do
you
like it a lot.
wouldn't.
I think they're the premature version of wineries that you're seeing. So if they manage to do this correctly, I can imagine,
Ecotourism.
yes. So similar to how you would stay at a winery over the course of a weekend, just drink wine.
Yeah.
There's people who are going to coffee plantations, visiting the farms. And in China, actually, is one of the few countries where you can do this because European drinkers don't have the luxury of visiting farms because they're too far away from them.
To go to Brazil, go to Ethiopia.
Whereas the Chinese consumer have
Can
that
just go to
luxury.
Yunnan. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And so that could be an industry that no other country can really
Interesting.
pull off.
All right. So I guess now is your time to make a wish. If you would like to go to a coffee farm with Linda and Pan, now is your best time to leave a comment.
Yeah.
Or to write to us so that we would know.
Tell us what kind of coffee you like, and we might
We might.
figure out a way to give out a sample.
We'll come back to this. Yes, we'll come back to this. The goal is to drink beautiful coffee together. To wrap, once upon a time, a houseplant, to a small agriculture crop, to a commodity level crop, to, specialty cup of excellence coffee, all packed in, more than 100 years. All of that history in just a coffee bean. Quite amazing.
Yeah. We've learned a lot while researching for this episode. So hopefully you have as well during the last, 2-ish hours. There's obviously, because it's an industry, it's a lot more difficult for us to cover than a company. And so we definitely missed out a lot of details. But if you do like to hear more, or if you like to hear more about a particular coffee company in China, shoot us an email, subscribe on Substack, or leave us a comment on the podcast app that you're listening to.
And one more thing, which is we don't typically do industry analysis because we both know that how rabbit hole-y this would go. But if you like this format, please also leave us a comment. Let us know. And we shall see you in our next company episode in Ascent. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.